Reincarnated as Godzilla, Su-yun came to the active universe of Ultraman. At this time, Mengbius Ultraman was appointed by the father of Ultraman to Earth for training, and the monster hibernation period that had lasted for 25 years for humanity came to an end. Evolved from the most basic Godzilla, possessing all templates. The legendary Godzilla template evolution, with atomic breath piercing through the earth, and even the Red Lotus Godzilla form melting all things. God of Destruction. Godzilla template evolution, ultra-high heat radioactive particles with flames, and unbeatable back radiation flow cleaning. Final Yen Godzilla template evolution, super spiral hotlines defeat powerful enemies, Red Lotus G flash hotlines instantly sky and earth. The evolution of the planetary Godzilla template, with the strongest body standing on top of the sky and earth, plasma cutting and radiating hot wires piercing through the singularity of space. Integrating everything, Su-yun will embark on the path of becoming the strongest Godzilla and embark on the path of becoming a god in the world of Ultraman. Keywords of the novel. Me, Godzilla, Little Brother Mengbius. No pop-ups, Me, Godzilla, Little Brother Mengbius. Download the complete TXT collection, Me, Godzilla, Little Brother Mengbius. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Monsters in the Deep Sea, Towering Like Mountains. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Monsters in the Deep Sea, Towering Like Mountains. Have you heard? After 25 years, monsters have appeared again. In the Pacific, on an ocean-going cargo ship, several sailors were cleaning up the rust on the deck while talking loudly. I saw it on TV, but Ultraman, who once protected us, also appeared. The other sailor next to him shook his head and said with some emotion. Since the disappearance of Idiotman 25 years ago, people have never seen Ultraman again, and similarly, there are those terrifying monsters. Over the past 25 years, it has been referred to as the monster hibernation period by the coalition government. Human beings have also rapidly developed during the 25-year monster window period, and space exploration projects are in full swing. Sigh. At this moment, an older sailor came over and listened to the conversation between these two colleagues, but let out a sigh. I'll tell you, this new Ultraman is just a beginner. Although he eliminated the monster, the entire city was destroyed. Ah, is that so? The sailor who was still lamenting Ultraman's appearance before couldn't help but freeze. Who said it's not right? The new Ultraman, compared to EIS Ultraman, is really much worse. Lao Shui shook his head and then took out a copper medal from his pocket, which was depicted as Est Ultraman. Meaningless, this old sailor is a loyal fan of EIS Ultraman. The old sailor picked up Esatelman's medal, his gaze aligned with the medal, and he looked towards the calm sea in the distance. What is that? Just then, the old sailor suddenly saw. A row of rugged peaks suddenly emerged from the originally calm sea surface. And the mountain over there is still getting closer, as if a moving peak has appeared under the seawater. No, it's a monster. The monster has appeared. The abnormal changes in the sea surface quickly made the old sailor react. When he was young, he had experienced monster invasions. Monster, run. Why are we so unlucky? Contact the defense team quickly. Left full rudder, quickly avoid monsters. For a moment, everyone on the entire ocean-going freighter screamed in panic, and the captain even personally took control of the ship's rudder. And at this moment, beneath the sea, the initiator of moving the mountain peak is Su-yun. No, Su-yun is no longer a human body, but a great monster, Godzilla. I have been incarnating as Godzilla in this world for almost a month now. Godzilla. Initial form. Height. 50 meters, weight. 20,000 tons. Must kill move. Radiate hotline, shake tail attack. Additional points. 1 physical fitness +0, each point increases height by 5 meters, with a weight of 5,000 tons, while significantly improving vitality, defense, and strength. Atomic Furnace +0, each point increases energy capacity by 10%, while significantly improving the temperature-bearing capacity of the furnace core, operational efficiency of the atomic furnace, and maximum energy storage capacity. Current evolution template. Legendary Godzilla. Legendary Godzilla Experience Card 3 cards. Other evolution templates have not been unlocked yet. This is the self-information template that Su-Yun saw in his mind. During this month, Su-Yun has been lurking at the bottom of the sea, wandering around, devouring whales or other schools of fish, absorbing radiation energy from the bottom of the sea, and barely accumulating enough evolutionary points. If we keep going like this, we don't know if we'll have to wait until the monkey year and horse month. Su-Yun is eagerly anticipating whether a nuclear bomb can blow it up. Unfortunately, no country has conducted submarine nuclear tests in the past month. A few days ago, Su-Yun felt abnormal vibrations and threatening sound waves coming from the land. Just as Su-Yun was about to go and take a look, that sound wave disappeared again. Helpless, Su-Yun could only continue to wander in the sea. Feeling the noisy sounds on the sea surface, Su-Yun looked up. It turned out to be an ocean-going cargo ship, and the crew on board were all running in panic, afraid of being targeted by this monster. Shit! Su-Yun's head popped out and looked at the sailors on the ocean freight ship who were so scared that they collapsed on the ground, then let out a sigh. A wave of seawater sprayed out of Su-Yun's nostrils and washed onto the deck of the ocean-going cargo ship, causing the forklifts next to the containers to be overturned. Subsequently, Su-Yun dived underwater again and continued to swim towards the land. Looking at the distant peaks on the sea, the captain in the cockpit couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and sat down on the ground with a thud. And the old sailor on the deck also began to gasp for breath. Just then, when he looked directly into the monster's eyes, the old sailor forgot to breathe. As for why this monster did not attack this ocean-going cargo ship, the old sailor is not sure. But what he knew was that all of them survived. The new book sets sail, and we seek the support of all readers. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Rise and Fall of Gudun, Reorganized Guys. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Rise and Fall of Gudun, Reorganized Guys. In the direction of land, new monster sound waves have appeared in the past 2 days. Following this sound wave, Su-Yun followed the ocean current all the way to Tokyo Bay. Meanwhile, in a quarry near Tokyo Bay, in a violent earthquake, the ground of the quarry shattered and a huge crack appeared. Fortunately, all the workers in this quarry have been evacuated in advance by guys. After all, 2 days ago, the electromagnetic observation satellite at Gudun Space Base discovered abnormal electromagnetic waves in Tokyo Bay. The source location is exactly the area of this quarry. Although no monsters have been discovered yet, Gudun's personnel have applied for a temporary lockdown of this quarry for safety reasons. Boom boom. With the sound of the earth shattering, like the sound of mountains before an earthquake. Immediately afterwards, a huge monster crawled up from the ground, resembling a beetle's hard, iron-like antennae, with strong and powerful long whips in its hands. Underground monsters, ancient mounds. Roar. As soon as he came out of the ground, Gudun shouted excitedly. While shaking his body, he swung 2 spiral long whips towards the nearby quarry factory building. Pai-li-pa. The factories in the quarry were suddenly whipped by Gudun's long whip and collapsed, with concrete and stones scattered all over the ground. The loaders and forklifts parked on the site were also whipped away by Gudun's long whip. The mining vehicle, weighing dozens of tons, was hit by Gudun's long whip on a small hill hundreds of meters away. After wantonly destroying the factories in the quarry and those mining machinery, Gudun swung his long whips and turned his gaze towards the direction of the city. Shoo! At this moment, a flame-like light flashed across the sky, and a fighter jet painted like flames flew over from a distance. It is Guy's universal split-type fighter, the Phoenix. At a distance of about 2 kilometers from Gudun, the Phoenix began to separate in front and behind. The split became the flying wing and the second half of the loading number. 2 fighter jets, one in front and one behind, one on the left and one on the right, launched an attack towards Gudun. Laser cannons were fired from below the fuselage of the flying wing and the loading number. Bang! Bang! Laser cannons hit Gudun's body, blasting out large electrical sparks. However, these laser guns are capable of destroying tank vehicles in one blow, for the rough and fleshy Gudun. But it feels like tickling and has no effect at all. The only use was to attract Gudun's attention, causing him to shift his gaze from the city ahead to the Guy's fighter behind him. However, the threat from the urban area still exists, and Gudun must be defeated here. At the very least, it must be led to a remote location. Seeing that the attack was not favorable, Sagara Dragon on the flying wing and Hibia Futsui on the loading number simultaneously applied to the Phoenix Nest headquarters, requesting the use of meteor technology. At the command center of the Phoenix Nest headquarters, when Assistant Officer Tadariyama hesitated. Roar! Not far away from the quarry, along the coastline, there came an extremely suppressed roar. Immediately after, another monster landed from the coastline and strode towards Gudun. At the headquarters, another monster has been discovered that has landed from the bottom of the sea. Seeing the large monster landing from the seabed, Xiang Yuan Dragon's face immediately darkened. Ah, how could that be? How come another monster has arrived? The assistant officer of Bird Mountain and the secretary beside him couldn't help but embrace each other, howling in despair. This is a monster that has never been recorded before. At the data station in the command room, team member Zhaping spoke excitedly. He has been extremely interested in those monsters since he was young. When participating in the Guy's driver certification, he almost memorized all the experiences of previous Ultraman warriors fighting on Earth. Mr. Bird Mountain, it's time. Aren't you giving orders yet? Looking at the second big monster appearing on the big screen, Captain Shui turned his head and said in a deep voice to the assistant officer of Bird Mountain. But they are all just civilians. Secretary Yuan looked at Assistant Officer Nyashin and said hesitantly. At this point, still considering those. Assistant Officer Nyashin reached out and patted Secretary Yuan's head, speaking in frustration. I approve the lifting of the ban on meteor technology, with a time limit of 60 seconds. The assistant officer of Bird Mountain turned around and looked at the synchronized screen, where the flying wing and the loading number were, and the view of Gudun and the new monster, speaking seriously. In that case, then I'll join guys. On the Fae, behind the Sagara Dragon, the spotted dove George took out his memory display, also known as his ID card, and inserted it into the nearby control console. Me too. On the loading number, behind Hibishino Tome, Kazuma Shinria also took out his memory display and inserted it into the control console in front of him. Identity recognition successful, member of the Spotted Dove George team. Identity recognition successful, member of the Wind Shinrikyo team. A mechanical AI sound came out, and the expression of Assistant Bird Mountain also relaxed a bit. And in front of the monster Gudun, the monster landed from the coastline. It's none other than Su Yun, who is a Godzilla. The new book sets sail, and we seek the support of all readers. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Unknown Monster, Su Yun's Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Unknown Monster, Su Yun's Power. The flying wing and the loading number, which had lifted the ban on meteor technology, flew towards Gudun and Su Yun, who had just landed. The one responsible for dealing with Su Yun is the loading number piloted by members of Hibishino Future and Shinrikina. On the loading vessel, there are special devices carried through the technology left by previous aliens. Brummer Fan. Compared to the more lightweight Fae, the loading number, after lifting the ban on meteor technology, still cannot match the speed of Fei. Gudun had 2 long whips, making it easier for Fei to deal with. However, without the loading number, relying solely on the Fei number cannot suppress Gudun. What is this? As soon as Su Yun landed, he saw the monster Gudun not far ahead. And the loading number flying towards us, surrounded by flowing light and colors. The underground monster Gudun. A fighter jet from the Earth Defense Force. Seeing this scene, Su Yun finally realized that this world was an active world for Ultraman. Combined with the guy's logo on the loading number, Su Yun also guessed it. The Ultraman currently active on Earth in this universe is none other than Mengbius Ultraman. What a thrilling experience. Realizing this, Su Yun did not retreat, but instead a wave of fighting passion surged into his heart. Roar! Amidst Su Yun's surging fighting spirit, Godzilla opened her big mouth and roared at Gudun. Strange, this monster seems to be targeting Gudun. In the cockpit of the loading number, members of the Shin Shina team spoke curiously. Let's forget about that for now, the time of meteor technology is limited. First, drive this monster back into the sea. Hinano Miki shook his head behind him and said. Upon hearing Nishino's words, Shinji nodded. Subsequently, Shinji Nai's expression became more serious and her mind became more focused. Su Yun lifted his head and looked at the loading number flying above him, ignoring it. Then he continued walking towards Gudun step by step. The loading number under the Phantom Flight did not attract Su Yun's attention. After all, the Godzilla embodied by Su Yun is not like an ordinary monster. Seeing the Phantom Flight unable to attract Godzilla, the future had to grit its teeth. Shin Shina, prepare to use the bringer fan. Subsequently, the loading number hovered over Su Yun, and huge spiral fans lit up on both sides of the wings. Due to the lack of cover from the flying wing, the loud noise from the loading of the bringer fan made Su Yun, who was originally heading towards Gudun, notice it. Looking back at the hovering loading number, Su Yun quickly remembered the move of the bringer fan. So, it's not yet time for the bringer fan to fully start. Su Yun lowered his head and threw his thick tail into the air behind him. Not good, dodge towards the top left. In the cockpit, Junli Nai closed her eyes and, a few seconds in advance, heard the sound of wind from Su Yun shaking her tail. She quickly shouted loudly. Helpless, in the future, we had to stretch the control lever and dodge the loading number towards the upper left. Shwa! Su Yun's tail also brushed past at this moment, curling up in a gust of wind. No, without the cover of the flying wings, there won't be enough time to start the bringer fan. Avoiding Su Yun's tail flick attack, the future shook its head and said with some headaches. At the same time, on the side of Gudun, the flying wings piloted by Sagura Dragon and Banjiu George also encountered difficulties. Under the illusion flight of the flying wing, Gudun's whip was indeed unable to hit the flying wing. However, the laser gun attack of the flying wing was also unable to break the defense of Gudun. After seeing another monster approaching from the coast, Gudun also walked towards Su Yun. Helpless, Sagura Ryumin Futurai had no choice but to merge the flying wing and loading numbers. The monster that landed at the bottom of the sea has a clear purpose, which is Gudun. I think we can let the two of them fight here first, as long as they are not close to the city. In the battle command room of Guy's Phoenix Nest, team members Jiping had already put on Guy's uniforms and looked at the picture on the big screen, tentatively saying. Right, I think it's okay. Let the two of them fight first. The secretary on the side and assistant Bird Mountain said together, after all, these new members of Guy's, lifting the ban on meteor technology, assistant Bird Mountain is also worried. We don't have that much time. On the Fei, Sagura Ryo glanced at the meteor technique countdown with only 36 seconds left next to him, shook his head, and said. Su Yun rushed towards Gudun with great strides after eliminating the threat of the bringer fan. At a distance of 70.80 meters, Gudun attempted to use a long whip to attack Su Yun. However, he was dodged sideways by Su Yun and quickly rushed towards Gudun. In the primary form, Godzilla's short hand slapped Gudun's shoulder. With its enormous inertial force, Su Yun suddenly knocked down Gudun to the ground. However, Su Yun also felt the weight of Gudun. At present, the weight of Gudun is stronger than that of Su Yun. Without much thought, Su Yun added that evolutionary point to his physique. Suddenly, Su Yun's height began to increase, reaching 55 meters. And the weight also reached the same level as Gudun, 25,000 tons. The new book sets sail, and we seek the support of all readers. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Radioactive Hotline, The End of Gudun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Radioactive Hotline, The End of Gudun. Roar. The knockdown Gudun was not convinced, but instead stimulated its ferocity. Even if you fall to the ground, swing your whip and launch an attack towards Su Yun. Pop, pop. Gudun's long whip hit Su Yun and made a crisp sound. However, in Su Yun's feelings, it is not strong. The evolution just now has enhanced Su Yun's defense, making him just above the whip attack of Gudun. When Gudun's whip struck again, Su Yun seized the opportunity and grabbed Gudun's whip with a short hand. Then he took a bite and, under the terrifying force of Godzilla's bite, he took it. The long whip on the left side of Gudun was bitten into 2 pieces. At this moment, Gudun also took the opportunity to stand up. The whip on his right arm swung towards Su Yun's head again. Su Yun tilted his body and used his rugged dorsal fin to attack Gudun's long whip. Then, with a flick of the tail, a thick and sturdy tail swept through a fan-shaped arc. Heavy impact hit Gudun's waist. Bang! A dull collision sound sounded, and Gudun was directly pulled out by Su Yun's tail flick. The body flipped over to a selected position several tens of meters aside, pressing a loader from a mine under its body. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Just as Su Yun was preparing to pursue the victory, several special warhead missiles hit the fallen Gudun. These special warhead missiles launched by the flying wing are specially designed by guys to deal with monsters. Boom boom. In a burst of explosive flames, the skin of Gudun's abdomen was also blasted open with cracks. Next, the loading number located above, the bringer fan, is activated. 2 huge tornadoes, emanating from the bringer fans on both sides of the loading number, collided with Gudun's body. Under the attack of the tornado from the Bulingu fan, the ancient mound weighing 25,000 tons was destroyed. He was directly swept into the air and then fell towards the coastline. Seeing this scene, Su Yun was also amazed. Guy's meteor shooting technique is indeed extraordinary. It was truly shocking to witness the bringer fan on sight. Can control the ancient pier and throw it away. Su Yun, who is of the same level, can currently be thrown away. However, Su Yun was not fortunate enough to enjoy it. After falling off the ancient pier, the meteor technology of the loading and flying wings also reached the deadline. Especially the members of the Shin Shina team on the loading ship had already fainted. Meteor technology, the requirements for drivers are still too high. Lift your head and take a look at the restored Fei and Qinya above. Su Yun discovered that they were also hovering in the sky, seemingly observing themselves. Shaking his head, Su Yun wouldn't care about Guy's opinion of him. He is now a monster, the future king of monsters, Godzilla. However, neither the Sagara dragon on the flying wing nor the Hibishino future on the loading ship launched an attack, and they were willing to believe Xiping's statement. Dong, dong, dong. Su Yun strode towards Gudun. Gudun just wanted to stand up. Su Yun had already arrived in front of it. He stepped on Gudun's chest with 1 foot. Roar. Gudun opened his vampire-like mouth and roared at Su Yun above his body. Roar. Suyun also lowered his head and roared angrily at Gudun. Subsequently, inside Suyun's body, the atomic furnace began to operate at high speed. From Suyun's tail, one dorsal fin after another began to light up. Drop, 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 a large amount of energy reaction detected. In the Phoenix Nest command room, an alarm suddenly sounded. Captain Qianshui quickly looked up and saw that it was the data detected by the defense team's satellite radar. The source of this data is Suyun's dorsal fin. In the future, this unknown monster is undergoing high-energy reactions. Zheping quickly shouted in the communication channel. Is there a high-energy response? Got it, be careful to avoid it. On the loading number, Hibishino looked at Shinana, who had fainted in front of him, and then nodded and said. Similarly, the Sagara Dragon and the Spotted Dove George of the Flying Wing also received news. As the Flying Wing and the loading number crossed, Sagara Ryosaurus and Hibishino Akira nodded to each other. It seems that they are ready to launch an attack on Suyun at any time. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As Suyun's dorsal fins lit up one by one, the buzzing of energy also grew louder. At the peak, Suyun suddenly lifted his head. A red and white light shone in the mouth. Radiation hotline. The next second, Suyun lowered his head and a hot red and white light spewed out from Suyun's mouth. Coincidentally, it hit Gudun's roaring mouth. Hoo hoo. Under a series of ultra-high-temperature light attacks, Gudun's head began to melt. The energy of the radiation hotline fills all parts of Gudun's body. Boom. Bang, bang, bang. Under Suyun's continuous attack, Gudun's body exploded completely in a burst of flames, becoming charred debris everywhere. Upon seeing this scene, on the loading number, Hibishino's eyes suddenly shrank. He didn't expect that the monster in front of him, which he had never seen before, would also release such a powerful light, almost identical to his current Dream Beam ray. And equally shocked were the Zheping team members at the Phoenix Nest base. At this moment, he is opening his mouth wide with a stunned expression on his face. He didn't expect that the high-energy reaction just now would eventually turn into such a powerful light. The new book sets sail, and we seek the support of all readers. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Enhanced Strength, Guy's Analysis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Enhanced Strength, Guy's Analysis. Roar. After solving Gudun, Suyun looked up and roared towards the sky. At this moment, the Sagara Dragon on the Flying Wing and the Hibishino Future on the loading number were unsure of what to do. Hino no Miki instinctively held down his left wrist, and in case something went wrong, he would transform into Mengbius Ultraman. After howling in the sky, Suyun looked at the Guy's fighter jets in the sky behind him and found that they were currently only on alert. Suyun ignored Guy's and the others, but walked step by step towards the sea until his body sank into the sea. Alright, come back first. Watching Godzilla return to the sea on the big screen, the captain of the Phoenix Nest Battle Command Room, said in a low voice. Yes. On the Fei, Xiang Yuan Dragon reluctantly glanced at the direction where Suyun had left last, and then piloted the Fei with the Spotted Dove George, flying back towards the base. The loading number is also on this side, and Hibia Futsui turned his gaze back and then piloted the loading number, following behind the Fei in leaving here. Just now, that monster, as the future of Mengbius Ultraman, he had never seen it either. What its purpose is, this has also become a question for the entire Guy's team. At the same time, deep in the sea, Suyun was swaying his tail and wandering on the seabed, observing his attribute template. Godzilla. Initial form. Height. 55 meters, weight. 25,000 tons must kill move. Radiate hotline, shake tail attack. Additional points. 7 physical fitness +1, each point increases height by 5 meters, with a weight of 5,000 tons, while significantly improving vitality, defense, and strength. Atomic Furnace +0, each point increases energy capacity by 10%, while significantly improving the temperature-bearing capacity of the furnace core, operational efficiency of the atomic furnace, and maximum energy storage capacity. Current evolution template. Legendary Godzilla. Legendary Godzilla Experience Card 3 cards. Other evolution templates have not been unlocked yet. In the battle with Gudun, in order to achieve power suppression, Su-yun added some evolution points to his physique. But now, solving Gudun has brought back 7 evolution points for Su-yun. After thinking for a moment, Su-yun finally added 3 evolution points to his physique. In addition, 4 evolution points have also been added to the atomic furnace. After all, the power of the atomic furnace determines its ultimate skill, the power of the radiation hotline. And with this addition, Su-yun's body shape suddenly changed. My height has grown from 55 meters to 70 meters, and my weight has reached 40,000 tons. Compared to before, my body has become even more robust and majestic. The dorsal fins on the back appear increasingly majestic. Looking around, it looks like a steep mountain peak. The energy capacity of the atomic furnace has also increased by 40%, and its carrying capacity has been greatly enhanced. The radiation hotlines that Su-yun can release now have increased by 3 times compared to before. After all, the enhancement of basic numerical values is reflected in more than just a little bit of attack ability. Feeling the enhancement of his own strength, Su-yun's mood couldn't help but improve. After seeing guys, Su-yun understood the existence of Ultraman during this login. At that time, the strength was far from comparable to that of the Ultras. However, since he could defeat those monsters and evolve points in the past, some of Su-yun's concerns that had just arisen collapsed in an instant. And on Guy's side, in the Phoenix Nest. The Zhiping team member responsible for monster data analysis is still watching the battle between Godzilla and Gudun over and over again. Alright, why are you still looking at this? You haven't slept for several nights. Xiang Yuanlong walked into the combat command room and patted the shoulder of the Zhiping team member. I'm just curious about what the energy source of this unrecorded monster is. From the video, it can be seen that when it releases the move to kill Gudun, its dorsal fins light up one by one from its tail. Team member Zhiping shook his head and said thoughtfully. It can't be said that its energy accumulates in its dorsal fin, it's really strange. Speaking of which, team member Zhiping pulled over the nearby Hibia future. And, in the future, you see, I will also notice that after the first encounter with Gudun, this monster's body seems to have slightly enlarged. Team member Zhiping pointed to the video footage where Su-yun had a slight improvement in his body while knocking down Gudun. In order to prove his observational ability, team members from Zhiping also compared the scenes of Su-yun landing in his final departure. The nearby Sagara Dragon and Hibia future all gathered together. Looking at the comparison between the two pictures on the screen, it does seem like there have been some changes. Can we say that this monster is still constantly growing? Hinano said curiously. That's right, there's a possibility. Team member Zhiping patted his head and said loudly. Ding-ling. At this moment, the alarms sounded in the combat command room. The Spotted Dove George and the Truth Nai quickly ran in wearing Guy's team uniforms. On the big screen, the scene of acting director Yuki Mizaki was played. I have conveyed the instructions from headquarters that the Great Bear Volcano suddenly erupted. Near the crater, radar captured a figure about 60 meters high. Please go investigate immediately. The new book sets sail, and we seek the support of all readers. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Volcano Monster Bird. Barton appears, poison Dreambius. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Volcano Monster Bird. Barton appears, poison Dreambius. Upon receiving orders from the acting director, Xiang Yuanlong and his team quickly set off. It was still the 4 of them, the Phoenix, piloting a split-type fighter jet, flying towards the direction of the Great Bear Volcano. On the other hand, Su Yun, who was still dozing under the sea near Hawaii, also heard infrasound waves from monsters. However, Su Yun was somewhat puzzled as to why there seemed to be some fearful colors in this monster's infrasound. Without much thought, Su Yun swung his tail and swam towards the direction of the infrasound wave. At this time, the Great Bear Volcano may have ended its long dormant period due to the monster. Lava and flames continue to erupt from the volcano, burning nearby forests to ashes. The Phoenix of Guys, after separation, also landed on the other side of the Great Bear Volcano. This is on the dark side of the Great Bear Volcano and has not yet been covered by lava. However, the entire area here is filled with pitch-black volcanic ash and a strong smell of sulfur. Hinano and the others got off the fighter jet and began to conduct on-site inspections. However, not long after, the slope ahead suddenly shook. Immediately after, a large monster bird overturned the land and climbed out from the slope. It is the notorious volcanic monster bird Barton. Sagura Ryo quickly returned to the flying wings with Hattori George, but Narina couldn't find Hibishino Akira for a while, so she had to return to the loading ship alone. At the same time, in a dazzling light, Mengbius Ultraman appeared in front of the volcanic monster bird Barton. Is that the guy? The guy who treats combat like a child's play. Seeing the appearance of Mengbius Ultraman on the flying wing, Xiang Yuan long said displeased. Previously, when dealing with the Space Slayer Iron Monster, Dinosauru, Mengbius Ultraman used the city building as a cover to evade the attack of Dinosauru. Let the Sagura dragon linger for a long time. And now, facing the volcanic monster bird Barton, this guy has appeared again. Be careful, everyone. The volcanic monster bird Barton is the monster that once took the life of the Ultraman warrior. In the communication channel, Chiping shouted in shock. He and the team members of Tian Gumuji may have found Barton's historical information in the combat command room. What? Upon hearing Chiping's shouts, Xiang Yuan Dragon and Banjiu George were all startled. They have never experienced the active period of the Ultras, and their experiences are all based on the narratives of guys and the promotion on TV. I never knew that even the Ultras would die in battle. This guy, he's still a beginner. After understanding this, Xiang Yuan Dragon looked at Mengbius Ultraman, who was facing the volcanic monster bird Barton head-on, and his eyes became somewhat complicated for a moment. Barton looked at the unseen Ultraman who appeared straight ahead. Exploratory flapping of wings. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew towards Mengbius Ultraman. The strong wind swept through the branches of some trees, as well as the rubble and gravel, and headed towards Mengbius Ultraman. Mengbiu wanted to get close to Barton, but it was difficult to move forward due to this strong wind. At this moment, Mengbius looked over his head and found that the strong wind was only gathering in the area in front of him. Without much thought, Mengbius took off in place and flew into the air, intending to launch an attack on Barton from the air. Unfortunately, Mobius forgot that Barton is a volcanic monster bird. Mengbius, who suddenly took off, suddenly revealed a flaw in his lower body. I haven't waited for Mengbiu to stabilize his figure yet. In the intense volcanic ash, Barton flew towards Mengbius Ultraman at lightning speed. The sharp bird beak pecked directly on the thigh of Mobius, and the venom sac on his chin quickly injected the toxin into his body. In an instant, a sense of fatigue surged into Mengbiu's body. Mengbius Ultraman fell directly from the sky and landed heavily on the ground. Squeezing. And Barton, screaming and flapping his wings, slowly landed. Looking at Barton ahead, Mengbius wanted to stand up, but under the influence of Barton's toxin, his stamina quickly dissipated. In an instant, the energy core in the chest began to flicker. Ding dong, ding dong. Seeing this scene, Chiping in the combat command room suddenly woke up. Not good, his energy core has already started to flicker. Chiping shouted with concern. Does this have any impact? On the flying wing, the Spotted Dove George team member was somewhat puzzled. The flicker of the energy core represents the Ultraman entering an extremely dangerous realm. Team membershiping, but he has recorded all the information about Ultraman warriors and monsters with his head. He knows these things too well. Just now, Barton probably injected toxins into this Ultraman, and his chin should be his venomous sac. Listening to the words of team membershiping, the captain of the forced water team nodded on the side. It seems that this is the reason why plants inexplicably withered in the local generation. Being able to be injected with toxins indicates that Ultra Warriors are also creatures, and they will also be killed. Zhiping shouted loudly, but the expression of Xiangyuan Dragon on the Fei became angry. We don't want guys with only one life to protect us. As they spoke, Sagara Dragon and Turtle Dove George, piloting the flying wings, launched an attack on Barton. The new book sets sail, and we seek the support of all readers. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Duel on the Island, Su Yun's Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Duel on the Island, Su Yun's Power. A large number of special warhead missiles, as well as the focused laser guns on both sides of the flying wing, shot towards the back of Barton. Boom! A large explosion of flames exploded on Barton's back, scorching some of its feathers behind it. Squeezing. Barton felt pain and let out a mournful cry, then turned away and opened his huge beak. A blazing flame spewed towards the flying wings. This level of flame attack is completely effortless for the flying wing. Xiangyuan Dragon swung the joystick and easily piloted the Fei to dodge. And the fallen Dreambius Ultraman struggled to stand up at this moment. However, it's not yet time for him to stand firm. The physical strength was quickly exhausted, and the body weakened and disappeared in front of the Sagara dragons. Alright, now that guy has disappeared, let's deal with Barton. Watching the dissipating Dreambius, Sagara Ryo shouted towards the spotted dove George sitting in front of him. Don't worry, I'm a top scorer. Turtle Dove George confidently shook his head. As a former top scorer in La Liga, targeting and attacking was completely effortless for him. Shoo, shoo. The controller of the Sagara Dragon, the flying wing, made a large aerial loop ahead and flew backwards towards Barton. And the spotted dove George also seized this opportunity and quickly pressed the weapon launch button in his hand. Two scorching focused laser cannons once again shot towards Barton's head. Boom! For a moment, focusing on the laser cannon's attack, a large burst of flames exploded on Barton's head. And Barton originally wanted to open his beak and spit out flames again. At this moment, suddenly Barton seemed to have heard something. Quickly flapping its wings, it flew towards the distant sky. Don't try to run. Seeing Barton running away, Sagara Dragon let out a loud roar and wanted the pilot, the flying wing, to pursue him. Come on, he will faint in the future. At this moment, the communication channel heard the cries of the members of the Shin Shina team. Xiangyuan long glanced at Barton, who had already flown far away, and had no choice but to stop and land the Fei not far away. Subsequently, Shohara Ryo and Turtle George ran towards the Shin Shina team members. At this moment, the future is being held in the lap of the Shin Shina team member, with purple lips and a constant cold sweat on the face, and has lost consciousness. Future. Xiangyuan Dragon touched Futureye's forehead and found it extremely hot. What's wrong with him? George the Turtle Dove asked with some confusion. I'm not sure, when he first found the future, he was already like this. The Truth Nai team member shook her head, she was also confused now. Take him back first. Xiangyuan Dragon was a bit worried and squatted down, carrying the future on his back and placing it in front of the loading number. On the other side, Su Yun, who was originally still moving towards the Great Bear Volcano, suddenly stopped. Because he felt the source of the infrasound wave constantly approaching the nearby waters. So Su Yun turned around and swam towards a nearby small island. Quickly, from a distant horizon, a large strange bird flew over from the sky. It was the volcanic monster bird Barton who flew over from the Great Bear Volcano. At this moment, behind Barton, there were also several Blue Guys fighter jets constantly launching attacks on it. These Blue Guys fighter jets are exactly Guy's coastal defense forces. When Barton saw the small island, he quickly fell from the sky, then lifted his head and spat out a scorching flame towards the coastal defense fighter behind him. Without time to dodge, the Blue Guys fighter jet at the forefront turned into a ball of fire and crashed towards the coastline next to the island. Boom! In the midst of an explosion of flames, the pilot of this Guy's fighter jet didn't even have time to escape. Other Guy's fighter jets saw the situation and began to scatter and attack, constantly circling near Barton, launching attacks on him. Laser shells hit Barton one after another, but with no effect at all. These Guy's coastal defense fighter jets are still improved models of the former Earth Defense Force fighter jets, with Meteor technology. Currently, they have only been tested and modified at the Phoenix Nest Far East base. Look over there. At this moment, the pilot of a Guy's coastal defense fighter jet suddenly noticed the rapidly rising sea not far away, like an impending tsunami. What situation? The other driver also looked at the sea in confusion. The abnormal change also caught Barton's attention. Barton stopped and spat out his fire, looking towards the sea surface. Squeezing. Barton habitually chirped. The next second, the seawater was quickly divided, and a monster behind it, resembling a towering mountain peak, rushed up from the bottom of the sea and rushed towards Barton on the island. This monster is Godzilla, Su-yun, wandering on the seabed. Squeezing. Watching the sudden appearance of the big monster, Barton let out a scream and wanted to flap his wings and fly into the air. However, before it could fly, Su-yun, who had already rushed towards the Shanghai coastline, collided head-on with it. Bang! Su-yun's powerful impact caused Barton to fly backwards and fall into the woods of the small island behind him. Roar! Su-yun looked at Barton and roared loudly, displaying its power recklessly. The new book set sail, seeking the support of all readers, flowers, and evaluation tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Escaping Volcano Monster Bird, The Life of the Ultraman Warrior. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The Escaping Volcano Monster Bird, The Life of the Ultraman Warrior. Squeezing. Barton flapped his wings and stood up again. Then, looking ahead at Su-yun, Barton opened his bird beak and spat out a blazing flame. Su-yun did not dodge the flames emitted by Barton. Barton's flames hit Su-yun's chest, but had no effect. After evolving to a height of 70 meters, Su-yun's defense can now ignore this level of flames. Roar! Facing Barton's flames, Su-yun walked step by step towards Barton. Then he slapped Barton's beak, interrupting his spitting fire. Barton shook his head and then wanted to lower his head and peck at Su-yun's chest. The venomous sacs on both sides of the head are also shaking. Seeing Barton's movements, Su-yun also became cautious and shook his head, exposing his dorsal fin to Barton. Barton's sharp bird beak pecked at Su-yun's dorsal fin. When a crisp sound reminded me that Barton's beak bounced directly from Su-yun's dorsal fin. The hardness of the dorsal fin even exceeds the strength of the bones. Barton's peck was unable to penetrate Su-yun's dorsal fin. Immediately after, Su-yun's counterattack arrived. Turning sideways, it made a movement similar to leaning on an iron mountain and pushed towards Barton. The hard dorsal fin collided with Barton's chest, its sharp tip even piercing through Barton's thick feathers, piercing Barton's skin defense. Suddenly, a row of blood seeped out from Barton's chest, staining the feathers on his chest red. Squeezing. Barton screamed and flapped his wings, flying into the sky. Then Su-yun, who was facing the ground, kept flapping his wings. A strong gust of wind rolled up and blew towards Su-yun. The broken trees and rocks on the entire island also hit towards Su Yun during the hurricane in Patton. Su Yun, who has a body of Godzilla at a height of 70 meters, completely doesn't care about this low level means. Allowing Barton to flap his wings, the strong winds could not make Su Yun take a step back. The strong tail flaps on the ground, forming a stable support point. Let those miscellaneous items dance, and the sea waves surge and churn. Su Yun never took a step back. Watching Barton flapping his wings to create a hurricane in the sky. Su Yun slowly lowered his head, and the atomic furnace inside his body was running at high speed, releasing terrifying energy. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A low-frequency buzzing sound began, coming from the end of Su Yun's tail. One by one, the dorsal fins began to gradually light up. That's the move we used to kill Gudun before, everyone be careful to avoid it. In the sky, inside a guy's coastal defense fighter jet, a pilot saw this scene and immediately shouted anxiously. Received. The pilots of several other guys' coastal defense fighter jets quickly responded. They had also read Su Yun's information before and knew about Su Yun's move. And Barton, who was still flapping his wings in mid-air, also noticed the anomaly. As he watched, Su Yun below had already opened his mouth, shining with a red and white light inside. Squeezing. Feeling the threat of life and death, Barton's feathers stood up. Quickly flapping his wings, he fled towards the distance. Boom. At this moment, a blazing, ultra-high-temperature ray spewed out from Su Yun's mouth, and the target was Barton, who was fleeing from the distant horizon, radiation hotline. Barton's speed was very fast, and he managed to escape with all his might, reaching a level beyond the speed of sound. In an instant, it disappeared into the clouds. Immediately after, Su Yun's radiation hotline had already broken through the dark clouds and headed straight into the sky. Unfortunately, Barton managed to escape. Looking at the dark clouds in the sky that could not be closed for a long time due to the high temperature of the radiation hotline. Su Yun slowly lowered his head, causing his dorsal fin behind him to slowly extinguish. What should we do? Here in the Coastal Defense Force, a fighter pilot tentatively asked. For a moment, there was a complete silence. I don't think this monster is threatening us. After a long time, another driver muttered softly. That's right, last time at the Far East base, those guys driving the Phoenix didn't launch any attacks on this monster, did they? Several other drivers also joined in, and for a while, everyone's opinions were unified. I didn't choose to attack Su Yun here, but turned around and returned towards the coastal defense base. Their mission is to intercept Barton at sea, and now that Barton has left here, their mission has been completed. Looking at the distant guy's coastal defense fighter jets, Su Yun shook his head and then relaunched from the coast. The tail behind him swayed left and right, and Su Yun continued to chase after Barton's infrasound waves. On the other side, in the command room of the Phoenix Nest base, Zhiping and his group sat together, sighing after flipping through a series of materials about the former defense team. Ultraman, indeed he is not an immortal. Speaking of which, Zhiping relaxed some of the retained information on the big screen. In previous defense team records, there were cases of Ultraman soldiers dying on Earth. As the Zhiping team members spoke, they posted pictures of the Auto Warriors who had died in battle. The first Ultraman, Ace Ultraman, and so on, all have some stories of dying in battle. And related to the volcanic monster bird Barton are Tyro Ultraman and Zophie Ultraman. I didn't expect Ultraman to die in battle too. Teammate Tanayaki's right hand rested on her cheek, and she spoke in disbelief. However, there are also records of Auto Warriors who have come back to life after dying in battle. Zhiping behind him spoke softly. Does that mean that the Ultraman also has several lives? The Truth Nai team members have some doubts. The new book sets sail, seeking the support of all readers, flowers, and evaluation tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Miracle of Life, The Return of Barton. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Miracle of Life, The Return of Barton. It's not that easy. At this moment, Hibiya Akira, wearing a hospital uniform, pushed open the door of the combat command room. After gaining new life, Ultra Warriors may not necessarily be able to resurrect. I will endure my physical discomfort and speak loudly in the future. Obviously, he had experienced similar things in the Kingdom of Light before. Why are you so clear about it? Next to Zhiping, a member of the Spotted Dove George team spoke to the future in confusion. Sometimes, we need some small miracles. Before waiting for the future to reply, Captain Qianshui walked in from outside and patted Hibishino's shoulder, saying in a deep voice. At this moment, the image of the acting director appeared again on the big screen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a picture from Guy's Coastal Defense Forces. During the battle with the Coastal Defense Forces, Barton encountered the monster that killed Gudun. In the absence of that monster, Barton turned around and fled back towards Japan. Acting Director Yuki Mizaki spoke loudly to the Guy's team members in the command room on the screen. At the same time, in the upper left corner of the screen, there was also a scene recorded by the Coastal Defense Forces, where Godzilla fought against Barton. Watching the video, Barton was completely crushed by Godzilla. The members of the Truth Team couldn't help but open their mouths wide. In front of Godzilla, Barton had no power to fight back. The high-temperature flames sprayed out are completely ineffective for Godzilla, and its toxins cannot be injected into Godzilla's body due to Godzilla's dorsal fins. Watching Barton quickly escape from the Godzilla radiation hotline attack, the Zhiping team members couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. This monster, even Barton is not a match. Looking at Barton's embarrassed appearance on the big screen, Zhiping exclaimed incredulously. Please pay attention to its body shape. The Spotted Dove George team member on the side crossed their arms and squinted their eyes, saying. As the video unfolds, one can only see Barton and Godzilla engaged in close combat. Godzilla's size actually faintly surpassed Barton's. I'm not mistaken, its body size has surpassed Barton. The Shin Shina team member looked at Godzilla in the picture, half a head higher than Barton, and couldn't believe it. I remember this guy, his body size was similar to that of Gudun last time. Why did he suddenly become so big? The team member of Taniyaki no Miki is also speaking curiously. What exactly happened? Team member Zhiping is also confused. He has studied so many monsters, but has never seen someone like Godzilla. The future of Hibishino also widened his eyes, and he didn't know how to explain the changes in this monster. Don't worry about that monster for now. With Barton's speed, it will soon reach land. Go and intercept Barton. Looking at the puzzled expressions of the Guy's team members, acting director Yuki Mizaki quickly shouted loudly. Yes, GIG. Upon hearing the order from the acting director, Xiang Yuanlong and his team immediately nodded. I'll go too. Future pressed his chest and then said with a pale face. In the future, you should rest well. I have already come up with a solution. Team member Zhiping patted Future's shoulder and confidently said. Okay, team member Zhiping, you can fly the Fei with me. Xiang Yuanlong shouted at the Zhiping team member and ran towards the hangar. Then the two of us will be responsible for driving the loading number. Turtle Dove George turned around and nodded at the Shin Shina team member. The Shin Shina team members responded, and then the two of them also ran towards the hangar. Watching everyone leave the battle command room, the future gritted its teeth and then walked out as well. And the assistant officer of Nyashin and the secretary of Yuan also came to the command room at this time. Rubbing their sleepy eyes, it was still early morning and they hadn't fully woken up yet. Ah, really, I came so early to disturb people's sleep. The assistant officer of Bird Mountain yawned and complained a little irritably. However, after seeing the acting director on the big screen, Assistant Bird Mountain immediately fell silent. Assistant Sir, now Barton is heading towards land, we need to get busy. Captain Qianshui handed a cup of strong coffee to the assistant officer of Nyashin, nodded, and said. Taking the coffee from Captain Forcing Water, the assistant officer of Bird Mountain sighed as he looked at Barton, who was repelled by Godzilla, in the picture. Sigh. Why didn't that guy solve Barton? Bird Mountain assistant officer helplessly roast. That's it. The round secretary on the side also agreed. Assistant Sir, we guys exist precisely to deal with these monsters. Captain Qianshui shook his head and said to the assistant officer of Nyashin with a smile. Well, that's right, but Barton is really despicable. The assistant officer of Bird Mountain nodded and cursed Barton. The captain of the forced water team on the side couldn't help but smile and shake his head. Barton's speed is very fast, and supersonic flight is indeed unmatched by Su Yun at the bottom of the sea. But for the Phoenix, this speed is nothing. In its basic form, it can break through the speed of sound, making it a genuine supersonic fighter. And Zhiping's idea was to attack the Venus vessels above Barton's venomous sac. Just like bees are also poisoned to death by their own toxins, let Barton taste the power of its own toxins. This has been supported by Sagara Dragon. So, when they met Barton at sea, the members of Ryumi Sagara and Tetsuhei piloted the flying wing and separated from the loading number, chasing Barton at full speed. As for the loading number, it was the first time that, together with the flying wings, they activated the Bollinger fan after activating meteor technology. Under the strong wind control of the Brunner fan, Barton, who was flying at high speed, was directly thrown from high altitude. Immediately afterwards, the flying wings flew towards Barton's lower front, ready to target the veins of Barton's venomous sac and launch an attack. The new book set sail, seeking the support of all readers, flowers, and evaluation tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Only One Life, Beyond Technology. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Only One Life, Beyond Technology. Unfortunately, after being attacked by the loading number Brunner fan, Barton's flight speed further accelerated. Obviously, after being attacked by education, Barton's vigilance was completely aroused. And this situation is not very good for the members of Sagara Ryumi and Tetsuhei. Just as the flying wing was synchronized with Barton's flight, Barton suddenly accelerated. This almost caused Barton's body to collide with the flying wings. Fortunately, we are currently in the phase of lifting the ban on meteor technology, and Sagara Dragon pulled the control lever to narrowly avoid Barton's impact. Subsequently, the Sagara Dragon increased the speed of the flying wing once again and flew to the lower front of Barton. Let the Zhiping team member sitting in front take aim above Barton's venomous sac and at the vein. 3, 2, 1. At this point, the meteor technology had just reached 1 minute of lifting the ban. The flying wing suddenly folded its wings and returned to its normal state. Damn it, it's almost there. Xiang Yuan Long gritted his teeth and cursed angrily. But he is also aware that the current 1-minute ban on meteor technology is already the limit for them. Without meeting physical fitness standards and adapting to meteor technology. If we continue to increase the time for lifting the ban on meteor technology, then it will only make them faint and even die on their own. That's also why, Assistant Officer Tadariyama, now only 1 minute is allowed for the lifting of the ban on meteor technology. Without the support of meteor technology, the flying wing could not maintain the same speed as Barton, let alone carry out targeted attacks. Suddenly, Barton left the attack range and collided with a small mountain on land. Dong! Barton's head hit the small hill heavily. Then Barton stood up and turned his gaze to the nearby city. Upon seeing this, Sagara Dragon landed the Fei near a nearby port. If it's a targeted attack, the Tula IGA gun has a better hit rate. The team members of Sagara Ryo and Tetsuhei ran towards Barton with a Tula IGA gun. Standing next to a small house, Sagara Ryo held up his Turiga gun and aimed towards Barton. And Barton, after landing, began flapping his wings and launched a hurricane attack towards the city. Under the artificial hurricane of Patton, countless weeds and trees were blown by strong winds, sweeping towards the city. And here in the port, many ships have also been blown over by this strong wind on the water surface. The seawater stirred up huge waves, flooding the houses of some fishermen in the port. There were also some small boats that were blown upside down by the strong wind and crashed towards the shore. Under the influence of this strong wind, the members of Sagara Ryumi and Jipping were unable to calm down and aim. The small house next to it even had its roof rolled up. Shoo! A laser beam was emitted from the Turiga gun in the hand of Sagara Dragon, but unfortunately, it hit the corner of Barton's mouth. It did not hit the vein on Barton's venom sac. However, this attack also caught Barton's attention. Barton stopped flapping his wings and looked towards the Sagara dragons and the others. After discovering the members of Sagara Ryunari and Tetsuhei wearing Guy's team uniforms, Barton shook his head and then opened his huge beak, gathering the power of flames. Be careful. At this moment, the loaded fighter jet arrived late. A laser cannon hit Barton's abdomen, igniting a large burst of sparks. This laser cannon interrupted Barton's charged flames. Barton turned his head and glanced at the loading number in the sky, then opened his big mouth and spat out a hot flame. At this critical moment, a white light shone brightly, and with the appearance of the Mengbius ring, Mengbius Ultraman appeared directly in front of the Sagara dragons. Standing at the port, Mengbius Ultraman quickly raised his hands and formed a protective barrier. Barton's flame attack was completely blocked on the protective barrier of Mengbius Ultraman. Subsequently, Mengbius Ultraman shook his body as if gasping for breath. Jipping team members also noticed that the appearance of Mengbius Ultraman, from the beginning, his energy core was flashing. His energy core is still flickering, indicating that the toxins in his body have not been eliminated yet. The Jipping team member pointed to the energy core flickering on the chest of Mengbius Ultraman and shouted in surprise. So, did you fall into a dangerous state from the beginning of the battle? Xiang Yuanlong also looked at the chest of Mengbius Ultraman and frowned, saying, once the energy core in his chest goes out, it's not good. The Jipping team member clenched their fists and nervously said, what will happen if the energy core goes out? In the communicator, the words of the Shin Shina team member came through. The energy core in the chest of those auto warriors who died in battle is extinguished. The expression on the face of the Jipping team member was a bit unsightly, but all of these were found in the records of guys throughout history. So, is this guy fighting with his heavily injured body? After listening to the words of the Jipping team member, Xiang Yuanlong gritted his teeth, held the Tula Ija gun, and ran towards the front. I don't want to be protected by this guy with only one life. And Mengbius Ultraman, after blocking Barton's flame attack. Before he could react, Barton rushed towards him at lightning speed. The moment of capture. At this moment, the Sagara dragon below, while running, unlocked the transcendent technique of the Turiga gun, and the barrel also changed to blue. A blue beam of light was emitted from the Turiga gun. Transformed into a pale blue barrier, it enveloped the entire body of Mengbius Ultraman. The impact of Barton immediately rebounded back. Don't use beyond technology casually. In the command room of Phoenix Nest, Assistant Bird Mountain patted his head and said helplessly. This technique, also known as the shooting star technique of the Tula IGA gun, does not require him as an auxiliary officer to lift the ban. However, if used casually, a report is also required. The new book sets sail, and we seek the support of all readers. End of this chapter.